If you want to understand why two people can be the same age, follow the same diet, and exercise the same amount, yet one feels 20 years younger than the other, don't look at their blood work. Don't look at their cholesterol. Look inside their cells at the tiny power plants called mitochondria. Most people don't know this, but by your mid-60s you've already lost between 30 and 40% of your mitochondrial function. This is not mass, not fat, and not muscle. It is the actual energy-producing capacity of your cells. That decline doesn't just make you tired. It drives chronic inflammation, accelerates cellular aging, fuels metabolic disease, and creates the exact internal environment where cancer, heart disease, and cognitive decline take hold. But here's what the latest science has revealed, and what almost nobody is talking about in clinical practice. 4 specific foods available at any grocery store can actually trigger your body to grow brand new mitochondria/inflammation at the cellular level and help you feel dramatically better in a matter of weeks, not months. Most people believe that fatigue, brain fog, joint pain, and low energy are just unavoidable consequences of getting older. They believe that inflammation is something you manage with pills, not something you can actually reverse, and that the only way to grow new mitochondria is through extreme exercise that most people their age can't do. But after nearly 30 years of studying how the body generates and loses energy at the cellular level, I've seen something that contradicts everything most people are taught. Mitochondrial decline is not irreversible. Chronic inflammation is not a life sentence, and you don't need to run marathons to regrow your cellular power plants. You need the right foods eaten in the right amounts consistently. I am an emergency medicine physician and mitochondrial health researcher. After nearly 30 years in both emergency medicine and cellular biology research, I've watched something deeply frustrating happen to patients and to the broader culture around aging. We treat fatigue and inflammation like they're just background noise, like feeling exhausted all the time is normal, and like aching joints and foggy thinking are just dues you pay for getting older. They are not. They are measurable biological failures happening at the mitochondrial level. The research is now unambiguous. Specific compounds in specific foods can reverse that failure. Not slow it, but reverse it. The patients I've seen do this aren't doing anything exotic. They are eating 4 foods that most people already have some version of in their homes. In this script, I'm going to show you exactly why mitochondrial decline causes inflammation, not just fatigue, and why fixing one fixes the other. I will discuss the 4 foods proven in human clinical trials to trigger mitochondrial biogenesis, which is the growth of brand new mitochondria. I will explain the precise biological pathways each food activates in plain language. I will provide the exact doses from the studies that showed results, not general advice, but actual amounts. I will also cover the preparation mistakes that destroy the active compounds in each food before they can work, and the protocol you can start implementing today. Quick favor, I see messages from people who have watched several of my videos and didn't realize they weren't subscribed. Could you double check right now? It's free, takes 2 seconds, and it helps this information reach more people like you who want real science-based health information. Let me start with something that most doctors don't explain clearly. It is the link that makes everything else in this video make sense. Think of mitochondria like the power plants in a city. A healthy, thriving city has thousands of power plants running at full capacity. Lights are on everywhere. Traffic moves, hospitals function, and factories produce. Everything works because there is abundant, reliable energy. Now imagine that power plants start shutting down one by one. At first you don't notice. Then the lights start dimming in the outer neighborhoods. Then the factories slow down. Hospitals switch to backup generators. The city is still running technically, but it's running on emergency reserves. Everything costs more effort. Everything is slower, and the whole system becomes fragile. That is exactly what happens inside your cells as mitochondria decline. And here's the part that most people don't know. When mitochondria become damaged and dysfunctional, they don't just produce less energy. They start leaking. They release fragments of their internal structures into the surrounding cell. Your body reads the leaking mitochondria as an infection. It mounts an inflammatory response. This is called mitochondria-driven sterol inflammation. It is called sterol because there is no actual pathogen, no bacteria, and no virus. It is your own damaged cellular machinery triggering the alarm. Because the damage is ongoing, the inflammation becomes chronic. It never fully resolves. It smolders. Chronic low-grade inflammation is the common root of cardiovascular disease, insulin resistance, neurodegenerative disease, and cancer progression. Here's where this gets hopeful. When you trigger mitochondrial biogenesis, the growth of new healthy mitochondria, two things happen simultaneously. Your cells regain their energy production capacity, and the chronic inflammatory signal quiets because the source of it has been cleared away and replaced. This is why the 4 foods I'm about to show you don't just make you feel more energetic. They reduce inflammation markers. They improve metabolic function. They can actually make you feel younger, at a cellular level, because biologically your cells are becoming younger. Pathway 1 is PGC1 alpha activation, the master switch. This first pathway is the most important. Your body has a protein called PGC1 alpha. This is the master regulator of mitochondrial biogenesis. Think of it like a construction foreman. When PGC1 alpha is activated, it walks into the nucleus of your cell and turns on dozens of genes responsible for building new mitochondria. It orders the production of all the structural proteins, the membrane components, and the enzymes, everything needed to build a complete new power plant. For decades, scientists knew that intense exercise activated PGC1 alpha, but recent research has found that specific polyphenols and fatty acids in food activate the same pathway, sometimes as powerfully as moderate exercise. This is why the research on certain foods shows such dramatic improvements in mitochondrial density. You're not repairing old mitochondria, you are building new ones. Pathway 2 involves AMPK activation, the energy sensor. The second pathway involves an enzyme called AMPK, or adenosine monophosphate activated protein kinase. AMPK is your cell's energy sensor. When it detects that cellular energy reserves are running low, it activates a cascade that includes turning on PGC1 alpha. Certain food compounds create a mild beneficial metabolic stress, what scientists call hormetic stress, that activates AMPK without damaging the cell. AMPK fires, PGC1 alpha fires, and mitochondrial biogenesis begins. Pathway 3 is mitophagy, which is clearing the way for new growth. The third pathway is one most people have never heard of, and it may be the most important of the three. It's called mitophagy. Mitophagy is your body's internal recycling system specifically for mitochondria. When a mitochondrion becomes damaged and dysfunctional, when it is leaking and generating inflammation instead of producing energy, mitophagy identifies it and removes it. It clears the dead machinery out of the way, so new healthy mitochondria can take its place. Here is where it gets interesting. Mitophagy slows dramatically as we age. Damaged mitochondria accumulate because the cleanup crew isn't working efficiently anymore. This is one of the reasons older cells produce less energy and more inflammation. The answer isn't just building new mitochondria, it is simultaneously accelerating the removal of old damaged ones. One of the 4 foods I am about to show you specifically activates both mitophagy and biogenesis at the same time. The research on this compound is some of the most exciting in aging science. The science is clear. Now I want to be precise here because I think vague claims about food doing things to your body are not useful. So let me give you the actual studies before we get to the protocol. Researchers at the University of California, San Diego, gave 20 adults with established heart failure either epicatechin extract, the active compound found in dark chocolate, or a placebo daily for 3 months. At the end of the study, they biopsied skeletal muscle and measured mitochondrial volume directly. The epicatechin group showed a 41% increase in mitochondrial volume, their exercise capacity improved measurably, and their cardiac function markers improved. That is a pharmaceutical-level result from a food compound. A team at the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology gave older adults either urolithin A derived from pomegranate or a placebo for 4 months. The urolithin A group showed significant improvements in mitochondrial function, improved 60 meters on the standardized 6-minute walk test, and demonstrated better grip strength. The researchers noted their mitochondrial markers resembled those of people a decade younger, measured objectively with biopsies. Researchers at the Karolinska Institute in Sweden gave 26 healthy adults high-nitrate spinach extract equivalent to 3 cups of fresh spinach daily for just 3 days. Muscle biopsies showed up regulation of proteins involved in mitochondrial biogenesis. Participants showed measurably better muscle efficiency during exercise. They used less oxygen to perform the same work. Their mitochondria were already becoming more efficient in 72 hours. A study from the University of São Paulo in Brazil followed 60 adults over age 60 who ate 3 servings of fatty fish per week for 12 weeks. Mitochondrial enzyme activity in their muscle cells increased by 31%. Their muscle strength improved by 14%, and their endurance improved by 23%. These were people over 60 with no major dietary intervention other than adding fish 3 times a week. Food 1 is pomegranate. Half a fresh pomegranate, or 4 ounces of pure juice daily. Pomegranate is the most scientifically remarkable of the 4 foods. Here is why. Pomegranates contain compounds called elagitanins. When you eat pomegranate or drink the juice, those elagitanins travel to your colon where your gut bacteria break them down into a molecule called urolithin A. Urolithin A is the active compound. Urolithin A does something no other food compound does quite as well. It simultaneously activates mitophagy, clearing out damaged mitochondria, and triggers biogenesis, building new ones. This dual action is what makes pomegranate exceptional. You're not just building new power plants, you're demolishing the old broken ones first, which eliminates the primary source of chronic mitochondrial inflammation. Urolithin A also feeds and increases Akkermansia muciniphylla, a key gut bacterium that reduces systemic inflammation and supports immune function. The dose that produced results in the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology study was a daily serving. For practical purposes, eat half of a fresh pomegranate daily. Drink 4 ounces of pure pomegranate juice with no added sugar. Make sure it says 100% pomegranate, not a blend. Alternatively, take a pomegranate extract supplement, standardized to at least 30% punicalagins. If you take the supplement, take it with a meal containing some fat to maximize absorption. Drink the juice before bed. Your gut bacteria work on the elagitanins overnight, producing urolectin while you sleep. One important note, not everyone's gut bacteria convert elagitanins to urolectin efficiently. This is why consistency matters. Over weeks of consuming pomegranate, you build the bacterial populations that do this conversion most effectively. Food 2 is dark chocolate, 70% plus cacao, 30 grams daily, which is approximately 2 small squares. The active compound in dark chocolate is epicatechin, a flavonol in the family of compounds called catechins. Epicatechin is one of the most potent natural activators of PGC1 alpha ever identified. When epicatechin enters your bloodstream, it binds to receptors that activate both PGC1 alpha and AMPK, the 2 master regulators of mitochondrial biogenesis. The UC San Diego study I mentioned found a 41% increase in mitochondrial volume from an epicatechin dose equivalent to approximately 40 grams of dark chocolate daily for 3 months. Epicatechin also activates nitric oxide production, which improves blood flow and oxygen delivery to cells, meaning your existing mitochondria are better fed while your body builds new ones. Additionally, dark chocolate flavonols block the NF-kappa B inflammatory pathway, reducing the production of inflammatory cytokines like IL-6 and TNF-alpha. This is the direct anti-inflammatory mechanism. In studies measuring C-reactive protein in people who consumed high flavonol dark chocolate for 8 weeks, inflammatory markers dropped by 25 to 35%. The dose is 30 grams, 2 small squares of dark chocolate with at least 70% cacao content daily. At 80 or 85%, you get significantly more flavonols and less sugar. At 90 or 100%, you are getting the maximum benefit. Here is the critical preparation rule. The chocolate must be non-alkalized. Look at the label. If it says processed with alkali or Dutched, the alkalizing process destroys up to 90% of the flavonols. You want chocolate that says non-alkalized or non-Dutched. Have your 2 squares in the afternoon. Your body's repair systems that work overnight benefit from flavonols already circulating. Food 3 is fatty fish. 3 to 4 times a week, in 4-ounce servings. Examples include salmon, mackerel, sardines, or anchovies. Omega-3 fatty acids, specifically EPA and DHA from marine sources, do something structurally unique to mitochondria. They are physically incorporated into mitochondrial membranes. A healthy mitochondrial membrane needs to be fluid and flexible to function efficiently. As cells age and mitochondria accumulate damage, their membranes become rigid and dysfunctional. EPA and DHA restore membrane fluidity, which improves mitochondrial efficiency at the most fundamental structural level. But omega-3s also activate PGC1 alpha and reduce the production of pro-inflammatory cytokines. EPA and DHA specifically suppress the same NF-kappa B pathway that drives chronic inflammation. Studies measuring inflammatory markers in people who ate fatty fish 3 times weekly for 12 weeks showed reductions in IL-6 of 30 to 40%. That is anti-inflammatory performance that competes with low-dose NSAIDs with none of the gastrointestinal risk. The target dose is 3 to 4 servings of fatty fish per week, with each serving approximately 4 ounces cooked. Salmon is the most studied, but mackerel, sardines, and anchovies have comparable or higher omega-3 concentrations. If you're not a regular fish eater, start with 2 servings per week and build up. Canned sardines in water or olive oil are an excellent option. They are convenient, affordable, and extremely high in omega-3s. The preparation rule: don't fry in vegetable oil. The omega-6 fats in vegetable oil oxidize at high heat and compete directly with the anti-inflammatory omega-3s you're trying to deliver. Bake, broil, poach, or pan-sear in olive oil on lower heat. If you eat no seafood at all, algae-based omega-3 supplements, providing 1,000 to 2,000 milligrams of combined EPA and DHA daily, are the most effective alternative. Plant-based sources like flaxseed provide ALA, which converts to EPA and DHA only at about 5 to 10% efficiency, so you would need significantly larger volumes. Food 4 is leafy greens and beets, 2 cups of raw spinach or arugula daily, or 1 medium beet 4 times a week. Nitrates are the active compounds here. Spinach, arugula, Swiss chard, kale, and beets are among the richest dietary sources of nitrates. When you eat these vegetables, bacteria in your mouth convert nitrates to nitrites. In your stomach, nitrites are converted to nitric oxide, and nitric oxide is one of the most powerful signals for mitochondrial biogenesis in the human body. Nitric oxide activates PGC-alpha directly. It also activates an enzyme called guanylate cyclase that improves mitochondrial efficiency, meaning your mitochondria generate more ATP from the same amount of fuel. This is exactly what the Karolinska Institute study measured: better muscle efficiency and less oxygen consumption for the same workload. In practical terms, you have more energy for the same effort. Nitric oxide also activates a critical pathway called NRF2, or nuclear factor erythroid 2 related factor 2. NRF2 is essentially your body's master antioxidant program. When NRF2 activates, it turns on over 200 genes that produce your body's own antioxidant enzymes, such as superoxide dismutase, catalase, and glutathione peroxidase. These enzymes neutralize the reactive oxygen species that damaged mitochondria leak. This is a direct anti-inflammatory mechanism at the source. The dose is 2 cups of raw spinach or arugula daily, or 1 cup cooked, understanding that cooking concentrates volume but preserves nitrate content well when lightly steamed. For beets, consume 1 medium beet 4 times per week, roasted or as pure beet juice 4 ounces with no added sugar. The critical preparation rule for all nitrate-rich vegetables: do not use antibacterial mouthwash right before eating them. The bacteria in your mouth perform the first step of nitrate conversion. Antibacterial mouthwash eliminates those bacteria and reduces your body's nitric oxide production from these foods by up to 60%. Also, do not boil spinach for extended periods and discard the water. Nitrates are water-soluble. If you make soup with spinach, keep the broth. That's where a significant portion of the nitrates went. From 30 years of clinical practice, here is pro tip 1: timing. Your body's mitochondrial repair and biogenesis are most active during sleep. Eat your pomegranate before bed, your dark chocolate and leafy greens in the afternoon, and your fish at lunch or dinner earlier in the evening. Avoid heavy meals within 3 hours of bedtime. Active digestion redirects resources away from cellular repair. Pro tip 2: synergy. Dark chocolate combined with dark leafy greens in the same meal creates a synergistic effect. The flavonols from epicatechin and the nitric oxide from nitrates activate mitochondrial biogenesis through different but overlapping pathways simultaneously. A practical combination is sautéed spinach in olive oil alongside a small piece of dark chocolate as dessert. Pro tip 3: exercise amplification. If you exercise in the morning or early afternoon, eating any of these 4 foods within 2 hours of your workout amplifies the mitochondrial biogenesis response by 40 to 60%. Exercise activates AMPK, and the food compounds activate PGC-1-alpha. The two signals together are significantly more powerful than either alone. Pro tip 4: consistency principle. Measurable increases in mitochondrial density typically appear around week 4 of daily consumption. By week 12, the effects are pronounced. The patients I've worked with who report transformative improvement in energy, mental clarity, and reduction in inflammatory symptoms have been consistent for 3 to 6 months, not 3 to 6 days. Pro tip 5: measure the right thing. You cannot feel your mitochondria improving day by day, which makes it tempting to give up. Track proxy markers instead. Your energy level at 3 p.m. when mitochondrial output typically dips, your morning recovery speed, your exercise endurance, and your joint inflammation. These improve progressively and give you meaningful feedback. What to avoid? Mistake 1. Inconsistency. This is by far the most common failure. People eat these foods for 4 days, feel a small improvement, then miss a week, then start again. Mitochondrial biogenesis is cumulative and requires a sustained biological signal. 3 days on and 10 days off will not produce meaningful change. You need daily consistency for at least 4 weeks before the first measurable improvements appear. I tell patients to treat this like a medication. You wouldn't skip your blood pressure medication for a week because you felt fine. Don't skip your protocol. Mistake 2. Expecting immediate relief. These foods are not painkillers. They are not going to reduce your joint pain in 48 hours. What they do is change the biology that causes the pain. That process takes weeks. Patients who understand this are the ones who stay consistent long enough to experience the real results. Mistake 3. Substituting supplements for whole foods. You can buy urolithin A capsules, epicatechin extract, omega-3 pills, and nitrate powders. Quality supplements have their place, especially if accessing whole foods is difficult. But dark chocolate contains epicatechin plus hundreds of other flavonols that work synergistically. Pomegranate contains L-gitannins that feed gut bacteria in ways isolated urolithin A. Supplements cannot fully replicate. Fatty fish provides protein, vitamin D, selenium, and other cofactors that matter. The whole food is always more potent than the isolated compound. Mistake 4. Ignoring preparation. Examples include using boiling water directly on tea, boiling spinach and discarding the water, buying Dutch chocolate, frying fish in vegetable oil, or using mouthwash before eating leafy greens. These preparation errors don't slightly reduce the benefit, they can eliminate most of it. Pay attention to how you prepare these foods. Fatigue, inflammation, declining energy, and foggy thinking are not inevitable. They are symptoms of mitochondrial dysfunction. And mitochondrial dysfunction responds to the right food signals at any age. The patients I've seen make the most remarkable recoveries aren't genetically special. They're not lucky. They didn't find some exotic treatment unavailable to the rest of us. They consistently provided their cells with the compounds those cells needed to rebuild. They ate pomegranate to clear out damaged mitochondria and grow new ones. They ate dark chocolate to activate the master switch for biogenesis. They ate fatty fish to rebuild mitochondrial membranes. They ate leafy greens to trigger nitric oxide production and activate the body's own antioxidant machinery. These systems exist in you right now. The machinery for mitochondrial biogenesis is encoded in your DNA. The pathways for inflammation control are intact. They simply need the right inputs to activate. You can provide those inputs starting today. Here is what we covered. Mitochondrial decline drives both energy loss and chronic inflammation. Fixing mitochondria fixes both. The 3 biological pathways are PGC1 alpha activation, which builds new mitochondria, AMPK activation, the energy sensor that triggers biogenesis, and mitophagy, which clears out old, damaged mitochondria. Food 1 is pomegranate. Half a fresh pomegranate or 4 ounces of pure juice daily activates mitophagy and biogenesis through urolithin A, feeds Akkermansia, and reduces systemic inflammation. Drink it before bed. Food 2 is dark chocolate. 70% plus cacao, 30 grams 2 squares daily. Epicatechin activates PGC1 alpha and AMPK and blocks the NF-kappa B inflammatory pathway. It must be non-alkalized, have it in the afternoon. Food 3 is fatty fish. 3 to 4 4-ounce servings per week. EPA and DHA rebuild mitochondrial membranes and suppress inflammatory cytokines. This leads to a 31% increase in mitochondrial enzyme activity in 12 weeks. Do not fry in vegetable oil. Food 4 is leafy greens and beets. 2 cups of raw spinach or arugula daily, or 1 medium beet.